Ji-hoon Park had seen the inside of Kepler 442 station exactly 47 times before today. Each time was the same routine. Dock the cargo ship, grab his identification card, walk through customs, scan his DNA, answer a few questions, and get cleared to unload. It took maybe 20 minutes if the lines were short. Today, the lines were short. He stood behind a tall insectoid creature from the vrel species, watching its antennae twitch as the customs agent processed its information. The station buzzed with activity around them. Hundreds of species moved through the massive hall, speaking languages that his translator earpiece struggled to keep up with. Above, the curved transparent ceiling showed the stars beyond, sharp and clear in the void of space. The vrel moved on, and Ji-hoon stepped forward to the scanning booth. The agent, another vrel with dull green carapace, barely looked at him. Its multiple eyes focused on the holographic display floating between them. Identification, the agent said in a bored, clicking voice. Ji-hoon handed over his card. The agent waved it through a reader. Standard procedure. Ji-hoon had done this so many times, he could do it in his sleep. Step into the scanner, the agent said. Ji-hoon walked into the cylindrical chamber. Blue light washed over him from floor to ceiling. He felt nothing, like always. The scan took maybe 3 seconds. He waited for the familiar soft chime that meant he was cleared. Instead, the scanner screamed. It was a harsh, metallic shriek that made everyone in the customs hall stop and turn. Red light flooded the chamber, replacing the calm blue. Ji-hoon stumbled backward, his heart suddenly pounding. What the hell was happening? The vrel agent jerked upright, all its eyes now locked on the display. Its antennae stood straight up, a sign of alarm in its species. Step out of the scanner, it commanded, its voice no longer bored. Step out now, and do not move. Ji-hoon stepped out, raising his hands instinctively. What's wrong? What happened? The agent didn't answer. It was tapping frantically at the holographic controls, its multiple limbs moving in a blur. Around the customs hall, other travelers backed away. Security guards appeared from nowhere, surrounding Ji-hoon's position. They were Krell, massive reptilian beings with thick armor, plating, and weapons that hummed with energy. I don't understand, Ji-hoon said, trying to keep his voice calm. I'm just a cargo pilot. I've been through here dozens of times. One of the Krell guards, larger than the others, stepped forward, its yellow eyes narrowed. The vrel agent was now speaking rapidly into a communication device. Ji-hoon caught fragments. Unknown genetic signature. Extragalactic classification. Possible contamination. His stomach dropped. Extragalactic? That was impossible. He was human. Born on Earth. He had parents, childhood memories, school records. More officials arrived. A tall, reptilian creature with dark blue scales and elaborate markings approached the customs booth. It wore the insignia of station security. When it spoke, its voice was deep and commanding. I am Vextal, head of security for this station, it said, looking directly at Ji-hoon. You will come with us for further examination. There's been a mistake, Ji-hoon said, hating how his voice shook. I'm human. Just scan me again. We will, Vextal said. In a secure location, 2 guards grabbed Ji-hoon's arms. Their grip was firm but not painful. They led him away from the customs area, through corridors he had never seen before. Other travelers watched with wide eyes and whispered to each other. Ji-hoon felt his face burn with embarrassment and fear. They brought him to a holding cell deep within the station. The room was small, maybe 3 meters by 3 meters, with walls that glowed with a faint energy field. A force barrier hummed across the entrance. Through it, Ji-hoon could see guards taking positions outside. Wait here, Vextal said. Do not attempt to leave. The barrier will cause significant pain if you touch it. Then they left him alone. Ji-hoon sat on the bench attached to the wall and put his head in his hands. This couldn't be real. It had to be some kind of error. A computer glitch. Something fixable. In a few hours, they would realize their mistake and let him go. They had to. Time passed slowly. Ji-hoon watched through the barrier as technicians arrived, wheeling in equipment. They set up another DNA scanner right outside his cell, running tests on it. They called in other humans from the station, crew members, and travelers. One by one, these people stepped into the scanner. One by one, the scanner chimed softly and displayed the expected result. Terran. Class 7 sentient. Normal. Human. What Ji-hoon should have been. After the fifth human passed through without incident, Vextal returned. The scanner is functioning correctly, the security chief said. We are bringing in additional equipment. This is crazy, Ji-hoon said, standing up. I'm human. Look at me. I grew up on Earth. I have records, family, a whole life. Your records will be examined, Vextal said calmly. But 3 different scanners have now classified your genetic signature as extragalactic in origin. This has never happened before. Not once in the 70 years since DNA scanning became standard in galactic customs. Then the scanners are broken. All 3? Simultaneously? Vextal's head tilted. They brought in more scanners. Military-grade equipment that cost more than Ji-hoon would make in his entire life. Each one showed the same result. Each one labeled him as something not from this galaxy. The words glowed in red holographic text. Error. Genetic signature not recognized. Classification. Extragalactic origin. Threat level. Unknown. Unknown. Genetic. Threat level unknown. They thought he might be dangerous. Ji-hoon sank back onto the bench. Through the barrier, he could see station personnel gathering, talking in hushed voices. Word was spreading. The human. In Cell 7, who wasn't human. The impossible anomaly. Hours passed. Ji-hoon tried to sleep but couldn't. His mind raced with possibilities, each more frightening than the last. What if something really was wrong with him? What if he wasn't human? But that was insane. He remembered his childhood. He remembered his parents, his friends, learning to fly, his first cargo run. Those memories were real, weren't they? Late in the station's night cycle, Vextal returned with another figure. This one was human. A woman maybe in her 40s, with sharp eyes and gray-streaked black hair pulled back in a bun. She carried a datapad and wore the insignia of the Galactic Science Collective. This is Dr. Haejin Choi, Vextal said. She is a xenobiologist, specializing in genetic analysis. She has been assigned to your case. Haejin looked at Ji-hoon with undisguised curiosity. Mr. Park, she said, I've reviewed the scanning results. I'd like to run some additional tests, if you're willing. Will they prove I'm human? Ji-hoon asked. They'll prove what you are, Haejin said carefully. Whether that's human or something else. We'll find out together. Ji-hoon looked at her face, trying to read her expression. Was she scared of him? Curious? He couldn't tell. Do I have a choice? He asked. Always, Haejin said. But I suspect you want answers as much as I do. Ji-hoon nodded slowly. Then let's find out what's wrong with me. Haejin's expression softened slightly. Or, what's special about you? We shouldn't assume this is something wrong, but as Ji-hoon watched her set up her equipment, he couldn't shake the cold feeling in his gut. Something was different about him, something impossible, and deep down, in a place he didn't want to acknowledge, he wondered if he had always known. Haejin worked through the night, and Ji-hoon watched her from his cell. She drew his blood through a specialized port in the barrier, extracted tissue samples, ran scans that made his skin tingle. She barely spoke, completely focused on her work. Occasionally, she would stop and stare at her displays with an expression Ji-hoon couldn't read. By morning, she looked exhausted. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, and her hair had escaped its bun in several places. But when she finally looked up at Ji-hoon, her expression was intense. Your DNA is human, she said without preamble. Completely. Perfectly human. 23 chromosome pairs. Matches to Earth's genetic database. Normal telomeres. Everything checks out. Ji-hoon felt relief wash through him. So, the scanners were wrong. I didn't say that. Heejin pulled up a holographic display. Ji-hoon saw what looked like a DNA helix, but with strange, dark patterns woven through it. When I used quantum-level genetic sequencers, I found something impossible. Your DNA contains base pairs that shouldn't exist. What does that mean? It means you have genetic information that exists in a state we call quantum shadow. It's there, but also not there. Like it's phased slightly out of our dimension. Heijin zoomed in on the display. These sequences are invisible to normal analysis, but equipment designed to detect dimensional anomalies picks them up immediately. Ji-hoon's mouth went dry. Dimensional anomalies? The scanners at Customs aren't just looking for species classification, Heijin explained. They're also screening for dimensional contamination, temporal paradoxes, quantum duplicates, things that could threaten station integrity. Your shadow sequences triggered every alarm. But I'm not from another dimension, Ji-hoon said. I was born on Earth. I have parents. Heijin's expression shifted to something gentler. Tell me about them, so Ji-hoon told her. He talked about his father, Minho Park, who worked as an engineer for the Seoul Transit System. His mother, Eunji Park, who taught music at a local school. He told her about growing up in their small apartment, learning to play piano from his mother, helping his father fix things around the house. Normal memories. A normal life. Heijin listened quietly, then pulled up another file on her display. I accessed your birth records, she said. Or rather, your adoption records. Ji-hoon blinked. What? You were found when you were approximately 3 days old, abandoned in an apartment building in Seoul. The couple who found you, Minho and Eunji Park, took you to the authorities. When no one claimed you after 6 months, they formally adopted you. Heejin looked at him sympathetically. You didn't know? No. Ji-hoon's voice came out as a whisper. His parents had never told him. All his life, he thought he was their biological son. They never said anything. I'm sorry, Heejin said, and she sounded like she meant it. But this gives us a starting point. I pulled the old police reports from that night. There were unusual electromagnetic disturbances reported in your neighborhood. Several residents called about strange lights and a humming sound. You think that's connected to me? I think we need to investigate. Heejin closed her displays and looked directly at Ji-hoon. I'm going to speak with Vextal and the station authorities. You've been cooperative, and you haven't shown any signs of being dangerous. I'm going to request that we be allowed to travel to Earth to investigate your origins. They'll let us? They don't have much choice. The Galactic Council has taken an interest in your case. Some council members are pushing to have you transferred to a military research facility. Heijin's jaw tightened. I'm fighting against that. You're a person, not a specimen. But I need to prove you're not a threat. I'm not, Ji-hoon said desperately. I believe you, Heijin said. Now I need to make everyone else believe it too. The next 2 days were a bureaucratic nightmare. Ji-hoon remained in his cell, while Heijin argued with officials, filed reports, and called in favors from colleagues across the galaxy. Vextal visited once to inform Ji-hoon that the Galactic Council had given them 10 days to prove he wasn't dangerous. After that, they would vote on his fate. 10 days to prove he deserved to exist freely. Finally, clearance came through. Ji-hoon was released from his cell, but assigned 4 armed guards who would accompany him everywhere. He and Heejin boarded a fast diplomatic shuttle bound for Earth. During the 3-day journey, Heijin explained more about what she had found. The quantum shadow sequences in his DNA formed patterns, almost like code. She couldn't read it yet, but it was clearly information of some kind. Data embedded in his genetics. Someone put it there deliberately, she said. This wasn't a natural mutation or random dimensional exposure. Someone engineered you this way. Why? Ji-hoon asked. That's what we need to find out. Earth looked beautiful from orbit, blue and white and green. Ji-hoon had been born here but had spent most of his adult life in space. Seeing it now, knowing he might not be from here at all, made his chest ache. They landed in Seoul and went directly to the address from the old police reports. The apartment building where Ji-hoon had been found was gone, replaced by a sleek commercial tower. But Hee-jin had brought equipment to measure electromagnetic signatures. There's still residual energy here, she said, studying her scanner. Very faint, but present. Whatever happened 28 years ago left a permanent mark. They spent hours scanning the area, taking readings, comparing data. The guards watched with bored expressions. Ji-hoon felt useless, just standing there, while Hee-jin worked. I want to see my parents, he said finally. Hee-jin looked up. We should. They might remember details that didn't make it into the official reports. Minho and Eunji still lived in the same neighborhood, though in a different apartment now. When Ji-hoon knocked on their door, his mother opened it and immediately burst into tears. Ji-hoon. She pulled him into a fierce hug. We saw the news. Everyone's talking about you. Are you okay? Are they treating you well? His father appeared behind her, looking older than Ji-hoon remembered, but with the same kind eyes. They sat in the small living room, and Hee-jin gently explained why they were there. Ji-hoon watched his parents' faces as they learned that the story had gone public, that their son was at the center of a galactic mystery. You never told me I was adopted, Ji-hoon said quietly. His mother's face crumpled. We wanted to, she said. We planned to tell you when you were older, but you were our son in every way that mattered. The time never seemed right. Number 4. We know the mattered 4. Tell us what you remember about finding him, Hee-jin said. Eunji wiped her eyes and took a shaky breath. It was late at night. We heard a sound, like music, but not music. It made the windows vibrate. We went outside, and there were lights in the sky, dancing. We found you in the hallway of the old building, Minho continued. You were wrapped in a blanket we'd never seen before. It was soft, but also strange. It seemed to change color when we moved it. Hee-jin leaned forward. What happened to the blanket? The police took it, Eunji said. But... She stood and walked to a shelf, taking down a small locket. I kept a thread from it. Just a tiny piece. I wanted to have something from that night. She opened the locket. Inside was a thread maybe 2 centimeters long. Iridescent and impossibly fine. Hee-jin's hands trembled as she took it. May I analyze this? If it helps Ji-hoon, Eunji said. Do whatever you need to do. They returned to their hotel, and Hee-jin immediately began examining the thread. Ji-hoon sat on the bed, his mind spinning. His whole life felt like a lie now. Not because his parents didn't love him, but because he didn't know who he really was. Hours later, Hee-jin turned to him with an expression of wonder and fear. This thread is made of programmable matter, she said. It exists in theoretical physics, but has never been successfully synthesized. The energy requirements alone are astronomical, and it's encoded with the same quantum signatures as your DNA. What does that mean? It means whoever left you here has technology far beyond anything in this galaxy, Hee-jin said. And they wrapped you in it. Like a message. The name Dr. Taewon Lim appeared in old research papers about dimensional physics, all dated around the time of Ji-hoon's appearance. Hee-jin tracked him down to a small house on the outskirts of Busan, far from the universities where he used to teach. When they arrived with their security escort, an old man answered the door. He looked at least 80, with white hair and deep wrinkles around his eyes. But those eyes were sharp, and they narrowed when he saw Hee-jin's equipment. No reporters, he said, starting to close the door. We're not reporters, Hee-jin said quickly. I'm Dr. Hee-jin Choi, xenobiologist. This is Ji-hoon Park. We need to ask you about your research from 28 years ago. Taewon froze. He stared at Ji-hoon for a long moment. Yes, Jihoon said. You know about me? Come in, Taewon said quietly. Quickly, before the neighbors see. His house was filled with old equipment, papers stacked everywhere, and diagrams covering the walls. It looked like the home of someone who had never stopped working, even in retirement. I've been waiting for this day, Taewon said, pouring tea with shaking hands. You detected something the night I was found, Jihoon said. I detected a miracle. Taewon pulled out an old datapad, its screen cracked but still functional. I was running experiments on quantum field fluctuations, theoretical work, nothing that should have produced real results. But that night, my equipment went crazy. He showed them readouts from 28 years ago. Haejin's eyes went wide. This is a dimensional rift, she said. An actual opening between universes. It lasted exactly 4.3 seconds, Taewon said. Long enough for something to pass through. Then it sealed shut. And I couldn't replicate the conditions, no matter how hard I tried. Found police barriers and news about an abandoned baby. I knew, somehow, that the two events were connected. Why didn't you report this? Haejin asked. I did, Taewon said bitterly. To my university, to the government, to anyone who would listen. They called me crazy, said I was seeing patterns where none existed. I lost my position, my funding, my reputation. He smiled without humor. But I kept my data. I knew I was right. What came through the rift? Jihoon asked. Was it just me? You and an energy signature, Taewon said. Something transmitted through with you. I couldn't capture it. But my equipment recorded its presence. It was like information, compressed into a form I didn't understand. Haejin and Taewon spent the next hours comparing data. Jihoon listened, understanding maybe half of what they said. They talked about quantum entanglement, dimensional barriers, and energy signatures. Finally, Haejin sat back with a stunned expression. There are more, she said. More what? Jihoon asked. More rifts. I've been looking at galactic sensor data from the past 30 years. There are 7 other locations across human space where similar electromagnetic anomalies were recorded. Small, brief, exactly like what Dr. Lim detected. She looked at Jihoon. You might not be alone. The implications hit Jihoon like a physical blow. There are others like me, possibly, Haejin said. We need to find them. If they were all sent through the same way you were, they might have the same quantum signatures in their DNA. But they wouldn't know unless they were scanned with advanced equipment. How do we find them? Jihoon asked. We start with the locations of the anomalies, Haejin said, already pulling up a star map. And we look for unexplained infant discoveries around those dates. It took 3 days of searching through records, but they found them. Bora Shin, 26 years old, working as a starship engineer on Mars colony. Found as an infant in an evacuation shelter during a meteor shower that locals swore was accompanied by strange lights. Jiwon Kang, 31 years old, serving as a diplomatic translator at the Galactic Council. Discovered in a Beijing medical center just hours after staff reported equipment malfunctions and seeing colors that shouldn't exist. Young Soo Han, 24 years old, a terraforming specialist on Titan, left on the doorstep of a research station during what scientists initially thought was a solar flare, but which didn't match any known stellar phenomena. We need to contact them, Haejin said. Get them scanned. If they're like you, they have a right to know. The Galactic Council authorized the tests, though some members protested. By now, Jihoon's case had become galactic news. Everyone wanted to know about the human who wasn't classified in any known genetic database. Bora agreed to be scanned first. She was a short woman with oil-stained hands and a suspicious expression. The scan took 30 seconds. Result, error. Genetic signature not recognized. Classification, extragalactic origin. Threat level unknown. Bora stared at the readout. You're kidding. I wish I was, Jihoon said. Jiwon came next, flying in from the Galactic Council headquarters. She was tall and elegant, speaking 4 languages fluently within the first 10 minutes of meeting them. Her scan showed the same impossible result. Young-Soo was the last. He arrived from Titan, sunburned and confused. When his scan matched the others, he sat down heavily and put his head in his hands. "What are we?" he asked. They gathered in a secure conference room, the 4 of them, plus Heijin and Dr. Taewon. Security guards stood outside. The 4 extragalactic humans looked at each other, searching for answers in each other's faces. "I can visualize engineering problems in 4 dimensions," Bora said quietly. "I always thought it was just how my brain worked. But maybe it's something else. I can learn languages after hearing them for maybe an hour," Jiwon added. "Every language. No matter how alien. It's like my brain just understands the patterns. I can look at an ecosystem and know what it needs to thrive," Young-Soo said. "I see connections other terraformers miss." They all looked at Ji-hoon. "I have perfect spatial awareness," he admitted. "I can pilot through asteroid fields that other pilots won't touch. I know exactly where everything is around me. Down to the centimeter. Astro away. Our cruise. Our cruise. Astro away. Our cruise." "Enhanced abilities," Heijin said, making notes. "Not superhuman, but at the extreme edge of human potential. Or maybe, just beyond it." That night, Ji-hoon couldn't sleep. He lay in his quarters, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the 3 others like him. They were all human. But also something more. Something other. When sleep finally came, he dreamed. But it wasn't his dream. In the dream, he saw a vast city burning. Ships filling the sky, fleeing something that swallowed light itself. He saw scientists working desperately, opening rifts to other dimensions. He saw children, babies, being sent through to safety. He heard voices speaking in a language he didn't know, but somehow understood. "Save them. They're our last hope." Ji-hoon woke with a gasp. His communicator was buzzing. Messages from Bora, Ji-won, and Young-Soo. "Did you dream it too?" Bora's message read. They met again in the conference room. All 4 had experienced the same vision. "It's starting," Heijin said, analyzing the quantum data from their brain scans during sleep. "The information encoded in your DNA is activating. You're receiving a message." "From who?" Young-Soo asked. "From whoever sent you here," Dr. Taewon said. "From your original universe." Over the next days, the visions became clearer. With Heijin and Taewon's help, they began to decode the information buried in their genes. It was like solving a puzzle where they were 4 pieces that had to fit together. When the complete message finally revealed itself, the room fell silent. It was a warning about something called the Void Swarm. The message played through the holographic display, reconstructed from the quantum data extracted from all 4 of their genetic codes. It showed images of a civilization far more advanced than anything in the current galaxy. Cities that floated in space, without supports. Ships that moved faster than light, without engines. Technology that seemed like magic. Then it showed the enemy. The Void Swarm wasn't a species. It was hunger given form, a phenomenon that consumed entire dimensions. It appeared as a darkness that ate light, matter, energy, and even time itself. In the message, they watched it devour planets, stars, whole solar systems. Nothing could stop it. Nothing could slow it down. They tried to fight, the message explained in a language none of them spoke but all understood. "We used every weapon, every defense, every strategy our civilization developed over 1,000,000 years. Nothing worked. The Void Swarm adapted to everything, consumed everything." The images shifted to show scientists working frantically. They were opening rifts to other dimensions, other universes, searching for somewhere safe. "We found your universe by chance," the message continued. "A reality where the Void Swarm had not yet reached. We had no time to warn you properly, no time to make contact. But we refused to let our knowledge die completely. The screen showed children, hundreds of them, being prepared for dimensional transport. Babies, each one encoded with fragments of their civilization's most important information. We sent our children through the rifts, scattered across your galaxy, hidden among your species. Each carries part of a weapon, the only theoretical defense we never had time to build. If the Void Swarm finds your universe, you will need this weapon to survive. The message showed blueprints, mathematical formulas, designs for technology that made Heijin shake her head in disbelief. "This is impossible," she whispered. "The energy requirements alone. We are sorry," the message concluded. "Sorry to burden you with this knowledge. Sorry to make you into weapons against your will. But you are our children, and you are also theirs." The image showed a human family. "Let both worlds be your home. Protect the one that remains." "Absin," the message ended. The 4 extragalactic humans sat in silence. "There are more of us," Jiwan finally said. The message mentioned hundreds of children. 8 more anomalies in the sensor data, Heijin confirmed, pulling up her research. 8 other rifts over the past 30 years. If each brought 1 child through, we need to find them, Jihun said. All of them. The Galactic Council resisted at first. Some members argued that searching for more extragalactic humans would cause panic. Others claimed the whole thing was a hoax, that the message was fabricated. But when independent scientists verified the quantum data, when Dr. Taiwan presented his decades-old sensor logs, they had no choice but to act. A task force was formed. Heijin led the scientific team, while Ji-hoon and the other 3 served as liaisons. They contacted the locations of each recorded rift, searched birth and adoption records, and looked for unexplained infant discoveries. Within 2 weeks, they found 8 more. Min Seo-an, a medical researcher who could diagnose diseases by sight alone. Dae-hyun Choi, a quantum physicist whose calculations were always perfect. Heejin Nam, an artist who painted in colors others couldn't perceive. Seokjin Yu, a pilot like Ji-hoon, but even more skilled. 4 others whose names Ji-hoon struggled to remember in the chaos of meetings and tests. Each one scanned with the same impossible result. Each one carried fragments of the genetic message. Each one had enhanced abilities they had thought were just natural talents. 12 total. 12 pieces of a weapon scattered across human space. They gathered at a secure facility on Earth, the 12 of them meeting for the first time. Ji-hoon looked at their faces and saw his own confusion, fear, and determination reflected back. They were strangers, but they were also family in a way no one else could understand. "Can we actually build this weapon?" Dae-hyun asked, studying the blueprints they had reconstructed. "In theory," Heejin said. "But it requires cooperation from multiple alien species, resources from across the galaxy, and technology we've never successfully created. So we ask for help," Jiwan said simply. It wasn't that simple. The Galactic Council was divided. Some species pledged full support, seeing the Void Swarm as a threat to everyone. Others refused to believe the danger was real, arguing that they had no proof this enemy existed in their dimension. A few saw the 12 extragalactic humans as the real threat and wanted them imprisoned or exiled. Ambassador Soman Kwan, humanity's representative to the Council, fought for them. She gave impassioned speeches about unity and preparation. She showed the Council the message, the data, the evidence. But political divisions ran deep. "We're running out of time," Bora said after another frustrating council session. "Even if the Void Swarm isn't here yet, what if it comes while we're still arguing? Then we build it ourselves," Ji-hoon said. Everyone looked at him. "We're human," he continued. "We improvise. We adapt. We don't wait for permission. We have the blueprints. We have 12 enhanced minds. We have human engineers, scientists, and resources. Let's just start building." It was the most human thing he could have said. Don't wait for the committee. Don't ask for approval. Just do it. Bora grinned. "I like the way you think." They started small, using facilities that human governments quietly provided. Bora led the engineering team, her four-dimensional thinking solving problems that stumped conventional engineers. Daehyun handled the quantum calculations. Heejin designed the visual interfaces, seeing patterns in the data others missed. Jiwon coordinated between teams, speaking everyone's language literally and figuratively. Young-soo analyzed the ecological impact of the energy systems they were building. The others contributed their unique perspectives and abilities. Haejin provided the scientific framework, while Dr. Tae-won served as advisor, his decades of dimensional research finally finding purpose. Human engineers, physicists, and technicians filled in the gaps, bringing practical experience and creative problem-solving. They didn't wait for alien species to offer help. They built with what they had. It won't be as powerful as the original design called for, Daehyun admitted after a month of work. We're improvising too much, using materials that aren't quite right. It doesn't need to be perfect, Bora said, elbow deep in a prototype generator. It needs to work. Ji-hoon spent his days piloting test runs, using his spatial awareness to position components with impossible precision. His cargo ship, the same vessel he'd been flying for 3 years, became the primary test platform. He knew every centimeter of that ship, and now he was learning every centimeter of the weapon they were building into it. At night, they shared dreams again. All 12 of them saw images of the void swarm, growing clearer and more detailed. They saw how it moved between dimensions, felt its hunger, understood its nature. It's coming, Minseo said one morning, her medical intuition reading the signs in their shared visions. Maybe not today or tomorrow, but soon. I can feel it. 3 months into their work, sensors at the edge of the galaxy detected something impossible. A darkness that shouldn't exist. A void where stars had been. The void swarm had found them. It was small. Just a probe sent ahead of the main swarm. But small still meant it was consuming space at an unprecedented rate. 3 uninhabited star systems vanished in a matter of days. The Galactic Council finally mobilized. The Galactic Fleet, the combined military might of dozens of species, moved to intercept. Ji-hoon watched the live feeds with the others, hoping the fleet would be enough. It wasn't. Conventional weapons did nothing. Energy blasts were absorbed. Missiles vanished into the darkness. Ships that got too close simply ceased to exist. The fleet retreated in chaos, having lost 30 vessels without inflicting any damage. Our weapon isn't ready, Daehyun said desperately. We need at least another month to finish the power systems. We don't have a month, Ji-hoon said, watching the void swarm probe advance toward inhabited systems. Millions of people were evacuating. But not everyone would make it. Bora stood up, her face set with determination. We use what we have. We take the incomplete weapon. We mount it on Ji-hoon's ship. And we try. It might not work. Haejin warned. Doing nothing definitely won't work, Ji-hoon said. They worked for 72 hours straight, barely stopping to eat or sleep. Bora's engineering team stripped down Ji-hoon's cargo ship and rebuilt it around the incomplete weapon. Daehyun calibrated the quantum generators while Heejin designed targeting systems based on patterns she could see in the void swarm's movement. The other 8 worked on the support systems, each contributing their unique perspective. Minseo monitored everyone's health, forcing them to take breaks when exhaustion became dangerous. Suok-jin helped Ji-hoon plan the flight path, 2 pilots working in perfect sync. It's not pretty, Bora said, wiping grease from her face as she looked at their creation. But it should fire. Should, Ji-hoon asked. 60% chance of working, Daehyun said, running calculations on his display. 30% chance of doing nothing. 10% chance of making things worse. I've flown on worse odds, Ji-hoon said, though his hands shook as he climbed into the pilot's seat. The 12 of them gathered in the ship's cargo hold, which now housed the massive weapon core. It hummed with barely contained energy, cobbled together from human technology and alien principles. Wires and cables ran everywhere. Warning lights blinked on panels. It looked like it would fall apart if someone sneezed too hard. "We need to go now," Jiwon said, monitoring the communications. The Void Swarm probe just changed course. It's heading toward the Kepler 442 station. The station where Jihoon's impossible journey had begun, where thousands of people lived and worked, where this had all started. "That's our target then," Jihoon said, firing up the engines. The ship was slower now, weighted down with the weapon and its power systems. But it still responded to Jihoon's touch, still moved the way he wanted. He had been flying this vessel for 3 years. It was more than a ship to him. It was home. The Galactic Fleet tried to stop them. They sent messages saying the mission was too dangerous, that the weapon wasn't authorized, that civilians shouldn't be risking their lives. Ambassador Soman Kwan overrode every objection. "Let them try," she said in her broadcast to the council. "Because no one else has a better plan." It took 8 hours to reach the intercept point. 8 hours of watching the Void Swarm probe grow larger on their sensors. 8 hours of the 12 of them running final checks, making last-minute adjustments, preparing for what might be their only chance. Jihoon could feel the others around the ship, each at their station. Bora, in engineering, keeping the power systems stable. Daehyun at the weapon controls, his fingers dancing across quantum interfaces. Heejin at targeting, her enhanced vision tracking the probe's movement patterns. The others supporting, calculating, coordinating. They were 12 people in a cargo ship held together with hope and desperation, facing an enemy that had destroyed an entire universe. "This is insane," Young-soo muttered over the comm. "Probably," Jihoon agreed. "But it's also very human." The Void Swarm probe filled their view screen, a darkness that made Jihoon's eyes hurt to look at. It was consuming space itself, reality breaking down at its edges. He could see Kepler 442 station in the distance, already beginning evacuation procedures. "Weapon range in 30 seconds, Daehyun announced. "Targeting locked," Heejin said, though her voice shook. "Power at maximum," Bora reported. "It's holding, but I don't know for how long." "Everyone, hold on," Jihoon said, his hands steady on the controls despite his racing heart. "This is going to get rough." 20 seconds. The probe seemed to notice them, darkness shifting in their direction. 10 seconds. Alarms blared across the ship. The weapon core was overheating, pushing past safety limits. 5 seconds. Jihoon could feel the wrongness of the Void Swarm, the way it broke the rules of reality. "Fire," he said. Daehyun activated the weapon. Light exploded from their ship. But it wasn't normal light. It was dimensional energy, quantum force made visible. The beam struck, the Void Swarm probe, and reality screamed. The ship shook so hard, Jihoon's teeth rattled. Warning lights covered every panel. The weapon core was tearing itself apart, the incomplete design barely holding together. "Keep firing!" Bora shouted over the noise. "We're hurting it!" She was right. The probe was changing, the darkness becoming less solid. Parts of it were flickering, destabilizing. The weapon was working, but not enough. "It's adapting," Daehyun yelled. "Just like in the message. It's learning to resist the dimensional disruption." "Then we change the frequency," Jihoon said. He didn't know where the knowledge came from, but suddenly he understood. The genetic message wasn't just information. It was instinct, knowledge buried in his DNA and awakening in crisis. "Bora, reroute power through the secondary manifold," he said. Daehyun. "Shift the quantum phase by 0.7. Heejin. Target the fluctuation points, not the solid mass." They moved without question, trusting his instinct. The 12 of them working as one, each enhanced mind contributing to a whole greater than its parts. Human intuition combining with alien technology to create something new. The weapon's frequency shifted. The beam changed color, cycling through spectrums human eyes couldn't normally see. But Heejin could see them. and she adjusted targeting accordingly. The Void Swarm probe convulsed. Its advance stopped. Slowly, impossibly, it began to retreat. "It's working!" Young-Soo shouted, but the ship was dying. The weapon core was melting down. Power systems failing across the board. Ji-hoon could feel his vessel coming apart around him. "We need to disengage," Bora said urgently. "The core is going to explode." "Not yet," Ji-hoon said, watching the probe. It was weakening, but not defeated. If they stopped now, it would recover and continue its advance. "We need to push it back through the dimensional barrier." "That will take another 60 seconds of sustained fire," Daehyun said. "We don't have 60 seconds. Then we improvise," Ji-hoon said. It was the most human answer he could give. They pushed the weapon past every safety limit, ignored every warning, and held together through sheer determination. The ship screamed around them. The weapon core turned white-hot, and the 12 of them, connected through their shared genetic heritage and their shared humanity, refused to give up. 50 seconds. The probe's darkness fractured. 40 seconds. Hull breaches on 3 decks. 30 seconds. The weapon core temperature reached critical. 20 seconds. The probe began fragmenting. 10 seconds. Ji-hoon felt the ship starting to tear itself apart. 5 seconds. He thought of his parents, of his ordinary life, of all the people on Kepler. 442 station. 0. The Void Swarm probe collapsed in on itself and vanished, pulled back through the dimensional barriers by the weapon's force. "Shut it down," Ji-hoon ordered. Dae-yeon cut the power. The weapon core went dark, its metal glowing red-hot. Alarms wailed. Fire suppression systems activated throughout the ship, but they were alive, and the probe was gone. Ji-hoon let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. Around him, the others were cheering, crying, laughing with relief and exhaustion. "Did we kill it?" Young-Soo asked. "No," Heejin said, studying her sensors. "But we damaged it badly, and forced it back to its own dimension. It might try again, but not for a while. And now we know the weapon works," Bora said, looking at the smoking remains of their prototype. "We can build more, better ones. We can actually defend against this thing." The Galactic fleet arrived to find Ji-hoon's battered cargo ship limping toward Kepler 442 station. The Council of Alien Species that had been arguing for months about whether to help suddenly couldn't volunteer resources fast enough. The 12 extragalactic humans became heroes, celebrated across the galaxy. But Ji-hoon didn't feel like a hero. He felt tired and grateful, and strangely at peace. Ambassador Salmon gave speeches about human determination and the power of cooperation. The Galactic Council officially recognized the 12 as citizens of both their origin, dimension, and this galaxy. Construction began on a network of dimensional barrier weapons based on their prototype. 3 months later, Ji-hoon stood at a memorial ceremony for those lost when the Void Swarm probe consumed the 3 star systems. Bora stood on his left. Ji-won on his right. The other 9 were scattered through the crowd. They didn't need to stand together to feel connected. Ambassador Salmon finished her speech and looked directly at the 12 of them. "These individuals proved something important," she said. "That it doesn't matter where we come from. It matters what we choose to do." They could have run. They could have hidden. Instead, they chose to protect a galaxy that questioned their very existence. Ji-hoon thought about the DNA scanner at customs, about the error message that had changed his life. Not classified in this galaxy. It had been terrifying at the time. Now, he understood it differently. He wasn't classified because he was something new. Not just human, not just alien, but both. A bridge between universes. A protector by choice, not by birth. After the ceremony, Ji-hoon returned to his cargo ship. Bora and her team had repaired it, though it would never be the same. The weapon mounting points remained, ready to be fitted with new equipment if needed. "Where will you go?" Heijin asked. having come to see him off. Back to work, Jihoon said with a smile. Somebody has to haul the components for those barrier generators across human space. Still just a cargo pilot? The best cargo pilot, Jihoon corrected. With perfect spatial awareness. And a ship that once fought off an extra-dimensional threat. Heijin laughed. You're impossible. I'm human, Jihoon said. We're all impossible. He launched from the station, his ship responding smoothly to his commands. Through his view screen, he could see the stars. Bright and clear and beautiful. This galaxy, his galaxy. The one he had chosen to protect. The DNA scanner hadn't glitched. It had told the truth. He wasn't from this galaxy, but he was staying anyway, because that's what humans do.